Last month, I was invited to Dotemu's Paris studio to go hands-on with its upcoming titles, like Marvel Cosmic Invasion, Abyssus, and Absolem. And as great as those are shaping up to be, they weren't the main event. Instead, the headliner was the promise of a big new game reveal, which instantly started making the IP-loving hamster in my brain run on its wheel. While Absolem has proved that Dotemu can absolutely do its own thing, the studio is still so well known for making magic with existing properties that I couldn't help but get excited about the possibilities. Could it be a new brawler with something huge like Star Wars or The Lord of the Rings? A retro action platformer like Ragebound? Or was I finally getting the Shredder's Revenge sequel I refused to shut up about? As it turns out, Dotemu's big new game is much closer to a wild card like Metal Slug Tactics that I never could have guessed. Battlestar Galactica Scattered Hopes, a roguelite RTS game from developer AltShift, the team behind Crying Suns. And despite never getting into the series or genre before, I was surprised at how much Scattered Hopes pulled me in.
Good luck to you out there. Much like Crying Suns and FTL Faster Than Light, Battlestar Galactica Scattered Hopes is a roguelike real-time strategy experience that sees you commanding your own fleet and trying to survive the depths of space for as long as possible, all while upgrading your ships and crew, managing various different resources, and dealing with rising tensions amidst various factions. You know, typical space stuff. One thing that makes Scattered Hopes unique, however, is its Battlestar coat of paint. As expected, Cylons are the main threat, as they constantly chase after you between each jump to a new system. Runs in Scattered Hopes play out in two phases, kicking off with prep work, where you organize your team, spend time on resource gathering, and try to find as much scrap for upgrades and fuel for warping before the Cylons arrive. Once the Cylons inevitably arrive, Scattered Hopes shifts over to a battle stage. I say battle, but it's more like survival, since the Cylons are seemingly endless and come at you in waves until you've got enough Tylium to get the heck out of Dodge. Rinse and repeat until the Cylons inevitably get you, and all that remains is the hope you gathered for humanity that can be spent on permanent upgrades that feed into your next run.
I wouldn't last 1 minute as a Battlestar commander.
That might all sound simple enough, and I'm sure seasoned Crying Suns players could jump in no problem, but that wasn't the case for a noob like me. From the moment I started the tutorial and had to shake off years of genre dust that had been gathering since Halo Wars 2, I was frankly overwhelmed and out of my depth, constantly making the wrong choices, spending resources too early, and even blowing up several of my own ships with my limited number of nukes. As someone who hasn't played many RTS games, my first run of Scattered Hopes was a total nightmare. Once I'd figured out the loop and gotten over the stress of being a commander, it all started clicking into place. I started being much more tactical instead of shooting everything in sight, learning to use all of my Tylium on worthwhile causes whenever the opportunity arose. My second run went much better than the self-nuking first go of things, with my fleet even surviving a few encounters against the Cylons, before eventually meeting a Tyliumless and squadronless end. Even as a newcomer to the RTS space, Scattered Hopes was the right balance of overwhelming stress, satisfaction, and on-the-fly thinking.
Adama, we've got a situation.
Outside of the Battlestar Galactica theming, most of what I've mentioned so far probably sounds familiar to anyone who's spent time with similar games. While that's not a bad thing, since Scattered Hope seems to replicate it all very well, the glue that holds it all together and makes it feel distinctly Battlestar is the focus on dramatic events called situations. Even when you've already got your hands full trying to match a crew member to a specific task, situations will arise in your fleet that demand your commanderly attention. The very first one I ran into saw a whole crew falling ill to some kind of sickness, which left me with the tough choice of whether to prevent it from spreading further and lose a part of my fleet for a few turns, or wait it out. I, of course, chose wrong by waiting and ended up with a compromised crew. Not every situation is as dramatic, since they range from shutting down civil disputes or choosing whether to take gifts from factions at the risk of their influence being too strong, but they're all interesting to deal with. There are also big story moments known as crises, which I caught a glimpse of but didn't dive into too far. I don't know nearly enough about Battlestar Galactica or space-themed RTS games to be part of the specific audience that Scattered Hopes is aiming for, but I still had a fun, if incredibly stressful, time checking it out. It's tough to tell the full scope of a roguelite from just a few runs, but I have a feeling that AltShift's clear love of everything Battlestar and expertise from Crying Suns will make this one to watch.